Every gardener wants rich, dark soil that smells earthy, crumbles in the hand, and holds moisture without turning to mud. That quality comes from humus, the stable organic fraction that doesn't rot away like kitchen scraps or dry out like mulch, but endures season after season, feeding plants steadily. The challenge is that humus normally takes years to form under natural conditions. Forests, prairies, and meadows rely on decades of leaf litter, fungi, and microbial layers before humus builds up. But gardeners don't have decades to wait. The question that drives us is simple. Can humus be created fast in a matter of weeks or months instead of years? The answer, with the right materials and methods, is yes, and that's exactly what we tested. Before diving into the how, it's important to clarify what humus isn't. Humus is not just decomposed leaves, not simply compost, and not even worm castings alone. It's the end stage of decomposition where organic matter stabilizes into dark, carbon-rich compounds that resist further breakdown. That stability is what makes humus so valuable. It locks nutrients into the soil, improves water retention, and gives soil its structure. Compost on its own may still release gases, lose nitrogen, or finish breaking down in the bed. Humus, on the other hand, is already stable, so it builds soil rather than simply feeding it for a season. This distinction matters because it tells us why so many gardeners are disappointed when their piles turn black but don't behave like humus. Compost feeds, humus endures. To get humus quickly, we need a method that stabilizes organic matter fast. The first principle in creating humus quickly is balance. Microbes require both carbon and nitrogen. Carbon is their energy, nitrogen is their protein. Too much nitrogen and the pile smells sour and burns hot but unstable. Too much carbon and decomposition stalls. For fast humus, the ideal is a layered foundation. Nitrogen-rich green materials like kitchen scraps, manure, or grass clippings, paired with carbon-rich browns like shredded cardboard, dry leaves, or straw. This balanced layering ensures microbes thrive, break down material efficiently, and push it towards stabilization rather than wasteful rot. Old-school farmers knew that certain additives could speed up decomposition dramatically. A splash of raw milk, a handful of wood ash, or even baker's yeast tossed into a composting trench acted as microbial boosters. Today, we know why. Milk introduces lactic acid bacteria, yeast brings fermenting organisms, and ash balances acidity while adding trace minerals. Modern gardeners can achieve the same by using compost tea rice, wash water, or a diluted molasses spray to wake up microbial activity. A thriving microbial community is the engine that turns soft scraps into lasting humus. Without microbes, organic matter simply rots. With them, it transforms. No process matches the efficiency of worms in stabilizing organic matter. Worm castings are rich in humic substances, the very building blocks of humus. By passing semi-decomposed matter through their guts, worms not only grind and mix but also inoculate material with microbial-rich mucus that resists further breakdown. The fastest path to humus is often a two-stage system: hot composting followed by worm processing. The heat burns through unstable materials quickly, killing weed seeds and pathogens. Once cooled, worms finish the job, creating stable castings in a matter of weeks. This combination can reduce what would naturally take years into a 3-month process. Even with perfect layering, without proper moisture and oxygen, the process fails. Too dry and microbes go dormant. Too wet and the pile turns anaerobic, producing sour leachate instead of humus. The sweet spot is about as moist as a wrung-out sponge. In practice, this means regularly watering the pile or trench, especially in hot weather, and making sure it's covered to prevent evaporation. Oxygen is just as critical. Turning the pile or using coarse carbon materials like straw ensures airflow. This oxygen feeds aerobic microbes, the kind that build humus instead of producing foul-smelling waste. Gardeners who neglect moisture or air often find their piles slimy, sour, or stuck halfway between raw waste and finished compost. With everything balanced, here's what happens when you aim for fast humus. During weeks 1 and 2, you enter the active breakdown phase. Kitchen scraps, manure, and greens really ignite microbial activity. Heat builds up, steam rises, and organic matter rapidly softens. This is the unstable phase where gases like ammonia may still escape. Weeks 3 through 6 bring cooling and stabilization. As the pile cools, worms, fungi, and secondary microbes start to move in. The material begins to darken, it smells more earthy, and you'll notice it starts to lose its original form. Structure is forming, but it is still compost at this stage. Weeks 7 through 12 are all about humification. With enough microbial diversity and the right conditions, much of the organic matter stabilizes. Worms process the remaining fragments, fungi break down lignin, and dark, crumbly humus finally emerges. By the end of this stage, the material resists further decay, showing it has crossed the line from compost into humus-rich soil. So, different materials humify at different speeds. You'll notice that soft kitchen scraps vanish pretty fast, but honestly, they lack structure. Manure, on the other hand, provides nitrogen and microbes, but it does need balancing carbon. Dry leaves and cardboard give you long-lasting carbon, but they break down slower, unless you shred and moisten them. The best fast humus recipe is basically a layered trench or pile of kitchen scraps, shredded cardboard, and a nitrogen booster like manure or fresh grass clippings. You want to keep it moist and inoculate it with microbes. Once the heat stage passes, introducing worms that really ensures stability. Under these conditions, humus can actually form in about 3 months, a fraction of the natural timeline. The difference humus makes in the soil is, honestly, dramatic. Beds amended with humus-rich matter hold water like a sponge, yet they drain freely, giving roots that perfect balance. Plants grow sturdier, pests become less of a problem, and fertilizers are almost unnecessary because nutrients are released slowly and steadily. Unlike raw compost, which continues to break down and can cause temporary imbalances, humus provides long-term stability. It's the closest thing to permanent fertility a gardener can add. You know, it's tempting to stop at composting, but the real transformation comes when organic matter crosses into humus. Compost feeds, humus builds. Compost may need replenishing every season, but humus lasts, improving soil year after year. That's why gardeners who focus on humus often find their soil improving steadily with less and less input over time. In a world where soils are being depleted faster than they can recover, learning how to create humus quickly is not just a personal gardening trick, but a regenerative practice for the future. The secret to fast humus isn't a magic ingredient, but a system. Balance carbon and nitrogen, keep moisture and air in check, inoculate with living microbes, and let worms finish the job. If you do this, what once took decades in nature can actually be achieved in a single season. Humus is the foundation of living soil, and building it quickly means healthier gardens, better harvests, and more resilience for the years ahead. If this deep dive into humus building gave you new ideas for your own soil, help spread this knowledge by subscribing to Hydrohaven and sharing this guide with fellow gardeners. Together, we can move beyond short-term composting and into true soil regeneration, one humus-rich bed at a time.